Welcome to Smart in the City, the Babel podcast where we bring together top actors in the smart city arena, sparking dialogues and interactions around the stakeholders and themes most prevalent for today's citizens and tomorrow's generations. I am your host, Tamlin Shimizu, and I hope that you will enjoy this episode and gain knowledge and connections to drive the change for a better urban life. Smart in the City is brought to you by Babel Smart Cities. We enable processes from research and strategy development to co-creation and implementation. To learn more about us, please visit the Babel platform at babel-smartcities.eu. Before we get into the episode, let me tell you about an exciting event happening in Tampere, Finland on the 6th and 7th of June, 2023, the Tampere Smart City Expo and Conference. The event offers forward-looking, cutting-edge thinking, technology, services, and solutions. We'll link to it in the show notes, and I definitely think this is one to check out. Now on to the regular programming. So welcome to a new episode in collaboration with Autonomy Mobility World Expo. I am sitting in the city of Paris, live at the expo as a media partner and enjoying meeting lots and lots of people, partners, urban stakeholders. And one of them today is sitting here. We might be in Paris, but we're traveling again into Spain, one of my favorite countries to dive into the mobility scene of, and specifically to the city of Madrid. So I'm sitting here with Sergio Fernandez Balaguer, who is the head of international department at the municipal transport company EMT of Madrid. So welcome, Sergio.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Wonderful to have you here and welcome onto the show. So are you enjoying this year's edition of the Autonomy?
Oh, yes. So far, very good.
Good. So I always like to get a little bit warmed up into the mood and swing of things here. So I was wondering, and it's okay if you take a minute to think, but what is one odd or weird thing that you've seen on the streets of Madrid recently?
I mean, the answer is quite simple and straightforward because perhaps that didn't happen that recently, but some months ago, I was walking in the street and I saw kind of a carriage of cycling people, and it was a beer carriage. So they were drinking beer and at the same time cycling all together. But it was something really weird, and I think it's not operating anymore. I think perhaps it had some sort of safety issues or it was not legalized or something because it was really odd. Yeah.
I've seen this in many cities, actually.
Yeah?
The bicycling with the bar while drinking beer. Yeah, I actually, in one of my hometowns, Fort Collins, Colorado in the US, we have that goes around the town. Yeah. It's quite a scene. So good answer. So I really want to know more about you. So tell us a bit about yourself, your background story. How did you come to work at EMT Madrid?
Okay, well, I would say that I'm working in mobility, in urban mobility topics, kind of as an accident, because actually my background is forestry.
Oh, wow.
So it has nothing to see with mobility or urban mobility or transportation. But after working 7 years for the private sector as environmental consultant, one ex-client asked me to join him in a new foundation promoted by Madrid City Council called Fundación Mobilidad, so Mobility Foundation, to start working on sustainable mobility. Back in a time when basically mobility was just traffic management. So to start thinking about cycling, walking, electrification, this type of governance, for instance, which is also very important. Back in a time when this was not on a daily basis, something applied by cities. It was a very interesting job. And then, at a certain point, I just moved to EMT Madrid, the public transport operator, where I've been working since 2011.
Wow, and that's quite the journey from forest to mobility.
Yeah.
I love hearing about people's different backgrounds and how they transition between those two things. Did you take anything from your experiences in forestry with you into the mobility sector?
I mean, I think the most challenging thing was to fulfill my expectations professionally speaking, shifting from forestry to sustainable mobility. And basically, it's about sustainability. It's all about sustainability. That is what I repeated to myself. Like, okay, this is not bad. I will keep working in sustainability, but from another perspective, which is mobility, and it's fundamental for cities and for the well-being of all of us. So, it was not that radical, I would say.
Yeah,
because it touches a lot of topics which are also of high interest. I'm really glad that I took that step. And I love urban mobility. I love working in the mobility sector. And I like everything. And something which is also very interesting for me is that the work you do is directly applied and you see the results because you live in the city you work for.
Yeah.
So that's very, very nice.
So many urban practitioners that I talk about that being so rewarding to see the fruits of your labor actually happening in the streets around you. So I see that really, that's fantastic. So about Madrid, what are the main challenges that you think Madrid is facing when it comes to public transport?
I mean, Madrid is very well known for a good public transport network. It's one of the cities with the biggest subway networks, for instance. I think it's the 8th in the world at the moment. The same happens with the public buses, the urban buses. EMT is well known for the good service and the very high satisfaction rates from customers. It has a very well integrated system managed by the Public Transport Authority, the Consorcio Regional de Transportes de Madrid, with some very unique approach, which is using interchange stations where all these public transport services are interconnected. So at the very entrance of main access roads getting into the city, you have a big station where subway, trains, urban buses get connected, and plus other additional mobility services. And that allows the city to cover a very big demand of around 1,600 million passengers per year, which is a lot.
Yeah.
So public transport is really working well. If you go to the inner part of the city, so the central area of the city, the modal shift is really good in favor of public transport and walking. If you go to the outskirts, the percentage decreases. It's something logical because many times public transport is not so competitive with other mobility solutions because, the urban sprawl, the density of population, etc. But I think that the most challenging aspect today for the public transport service in Madrid and in Madrid region, if we go beyond the city borders, is how to solve the transversal connectivity of public transport. Meaning that if you live in an outskirts or in a neighbor metropolitan area and you want to go to another one, today, most of the times you need to get first to the city center or quite into the city center to get out again. And that is something that is still not fully solved. And it conditions a lot the use of private car if you have this mobility pattern. So that is what both at the regional level and at the city level, technicians are working in and trying to find solutions for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't make sense if people have to go inside. Everyone says, oh, that's backtracking, then I'm just going to go directly with my car then, right?
Yeah. I mean, for instance, I would say that the ideal situation, and I don't mean that is easy, would be to plan somehow the same way as ring roads are planned for cars, trying to plan ring roads for public transport.
Yeah.
So there are some initiatives on the way, but it's something that we need to work for. There is an additional difficulty on top of this is the pandemic, because many public transport operators across the globe are still struggling with the level of usage of public transport. In Madrid, we have not recovered yet the previous figures before the pandemic. We are still, depending on the day, between I would say around 90% or even more, but still we haven't reached 100%. Whereas private car use has not only reached the previous levels, but even beyond. So that's a big challenge because our mobility behavior, our mobility patterns have changed. And it takes a lot of time to go back. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's a challenge that we hear across many cities in Europe. Do you find, so you're here also with, Polis, and doing a lot of facilitation, I guess, and talks between different cities across Europe. And I'm wondering how you, especially in the international department, how you work with other EU countries, with other cities. How does that collaboration work?
Well, it's working very well. First of all, perhaps it would be good to point out why a public transport operator, a local public transport operator, is interested in international activity. And the main topic has a kind of a twofold approach. The first one is because you learn a lot. So it's very good to know what others are doing anywhere. You learn and you can extract and get things to bring back home and to implement and deploy in your own local context. The other one is because it's very good to show what you're doing, because it always comes back somehow. So it's because of reputation, it's because the visibility you bring to your city. So it allows it opens up a wide variety of further either collaborations, cooperations, exchanges, etc. And it's good for the city. So we have kind of different approaches. The first one, as you mentioned, would be to get involved in international networks such as Polis, but also Eurocities or UITP, the International Association of Public Transport, and many others. There you really can have a very good exchange of initiatives, opinions, debates. You learn a lot from other companies and cities and operators. So you establish some sort of peer-to-peer collaboration. The other way would be to get involved in research and innovation projects. From our point of view, I mean, all these European-funded initiatives really help a lot, because in perhaps 3-4 years' times, you create a very good team with other peers to work in a very specific topic. And EMT has quite a big tradition in becoming involved in this type of projects since many years ago. And then the third one would be perhaps the consultancy activities. EMT Madrid, it's really willing to share the knowledge. We have a specific department for consultancy purposes. So we provide technical assistance as well to other public transport operators across the globe. We have had projects in Southeast Asia, Middle East, in Latin America, especially because of their brothers. And that's also another way, a very good way of bringing your knowledge to help others and also to add value to the work you already do.
Is that part of like the business model then behind it? Or I want to get into finances a little bit.
I wouldn't say business model because we are a public company and our aim is not to make a profit out of it.
Yeah.
But it helps somehow to balance the way we finance the service we provide to citizens.
Yeah.
So the percentage that represents is minimal, but it helps. And it also helps to project the vision of the city and the vision of EMT Madrid. So it's a very good way also of promoting what we do.
Yeah, that's incredible. I've actually haven't heard of that model before, so it's really, really interesting. And I'm wondering, so I heard Spain recently took the lead when it comes to free mobility, such as with long distance buses and trains, city bikes, free of charge as well, at least until the 31st of July or something along those lines. So you're trialing some of these models out. How can other cities replicate this? Like, can you talk a little bit about what that entails?
Yeah, well, as a matter of fact, EMT and the city of Madrid already started thinking about free transport days quite a few years ago. For instance, during the pandemic, the city of Madrid launched 2 specific bus lines, called 00, meaning that they were zero emissions, but also zero cost for the user, to allow people get into the city center and trying to promote public transport instead of private car use. These bus lines have had a great success, and they are still up and running. So we've been working on this kind of free transport as an incentive, just a promotional measure. But in addition to that, EMT also sets or defines some free days depending on the occasion. So, for instance, after summer holidays, when schools are again back into activity, we have free days to help people, going back to normality without using the private car. Or when the Black Friday arrives, then we have also some free days, or in Christmas. So the city defines, of course, in cooperation with the public transport authorities, some specific days for public transport. And when getting into the public bike sharing scheme, the public bike sharing system you mentioned, that is due because we are changing completely BiciMad, which is the public bike sharing system in Madrid. So it's being completely renewed from the bike to the dock to the back office system, everything. It's a complete new set. So to help in this transition and to somehow compensate the user for the difficulties or the drawbacks during this transition period, the city has decided to make it free until the 31st of July. As a mean of, compensating.
Yeah, really interesting. I think I know in Germany, recently they played around with different models, very cheap ticket for public transport. Obviously, there's many challenges to doing this. So it's really interesting to hear about all these use cases from transport companies trialing this. So I want to get a little bit into, I know you, with the international focus that you work quite closely or around the Commission's goals, I would say. The EC recently proposed to ban the sale of carbon-emitting cars from 2035. I was just wondering what your opinion is. Is it feasible?
I think it's a bit ambitious. And actually, just a few days ago, we knew from the media that there's been some sort of exemption for e-fuels that has been pushed by the German car industry and Italian car industry. I'm fully convinced about our own responsibilities in achieving sustainability goals. So I fully agree with what is said in the European Green Deal and the Sustainable Development Goals. But sometimes I think that perhaps we are too ambitious, because I think this approach must be something that has been or should be adopted by everyone in the planet. There is no point in getting a little part of the population of the planet very sustainable if the rest is not sustainable at all. Perhaps for our own self-relief, it's something good. Nevertheless, I think we need to set ambitious goals. Otherwise, we will never get to that point. And I'm kind of optimistic, despite the difficulties in the path. EMT is really pushing a lot. We are very committed. So EMT Madrid has a very ambitious target of reaching 1/3 of our fleet fully electrified by 2027. And to reach decarbonization by 2030. We have been making a great effort in fleet renewal, but also in other initiatives. Compensating emissions, exploring alternative fuels. For instance, EMT not banned actually. We phased out. So we get rid of all the diesel bus units last December. So we are currently the biggest city in Europe and one of the first in having 100% clean fleet according to the European Clean Vehicles Directive. That's a good goal. And now we are exploring also the possibilities of hydrogen. So we are building a green hydrogen fueling station in one of our bus depots, which should be finished by the end of this year. We are working also on photovoltaic panels to reduce the demand of energy in our buildings. We are working as well in the use of renewable biogas. So biogas coming from waste management plant in Madrid is being used as a fuel in our buses, in some of our buses, which is a completely renewable source of energy. So I think we all need to put an effort in our own, let's say, area of responsibility to achieve the goal.
Do you think it's enough? I like to play a devil's advocate a little bit. Do you think it's enough? Do you think that there's more that we could be doing?
It's a tricky question.
Yeah, I know.
Because many times doing more means more financing, for instance, which is many times a critical point. And then we need to fight again against our own behavior. So I think you have kind of a twofold approach. First, you need to change your own mindset to be fully committed and being confident about what you're doing. But then you need resources to do that. And this is when perhaps it comes the biggest difficulty, how to balance both and how to get the right proportion of both to keep pushing.
Absolutely. I see your point. Now we just get to the point where I want to ask you, if we missed a topic that you're quite passionate about, because I like to give every person the open floor. This is your podcast. This is your time. You can take it if you like. You don't have to. But is there anything else that you're quite passionate about or that you really want listeners to know?
I don't know. Perhaps as we are all citizens somewhere, it would be good to think about what can we, each one of us, do on our daily life, on our daily basis, to contribute for a more sustainable planet and a more sustainable life. And I'm the first, let's say, guilty, because many times I don't realize that my daily choices may influence what's going on out there. So I think it's fundamental to think about ourselves. I mean, what can we do?
Reflect a little bit on your own.
Be more have more awareness about what we can do.
Yeah, I agree. Good. So wonderful. So you got through the hardest part. Now we just get to play a little bit of a game. Are you ready? So we have different segments that we do on this show. So we like to, keep it lively and entertaining. So this is one of my favorite segments, and it's called Roll with the Punches. Roll with the punches. Answer this or that questions quickly and with your first instincts. So don't worry. It's not, you just go with whatever you feel is the best choice in the moment. And then you can go back and explain at the end. Okay. So are you ready?
Yeah, I think so.
Morning person or night owl?
Morning person in?
Morning person or night owl?
Morning person.
Scooters or bikes?
Bikes.
Summer or winter in Madrid?
Winter.
Electric mobility or active mobility?
Active.
Planning or implementing?
Implementing.
Sidewalk or bike lane?
Bike lane.
Okay. Do you want to explain any of your answers?
Okay. I mean, I'm turning 50 in 2 weeks' time. So regarding morning person or night owl, before I was a night owl, now I'm a morning person.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm passionate about cycling. So that's why whenever there is a cycle in between, I always,
go with
choose,
cycling.
I go with cycling because I love it.
You don't like the pedestrians. You just want to do the bike lane.
I mean,
I'm just kidding.
I love walking.
Yeah.
I love walking. But I think cycling has such big potential that I really love cycling. And whenever you cycle, you see things from another perspective.
Yeah.
You may know a city really by heart, everything. Then you take a bike and you see it from a completely different perspective.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I agree.
And then what else?
Winter in Madrid.
Have you ever been to Madrid in summer?
It's hot, yeah.
It's terribly hot.
Yeah.
So I will go for winter.
Yeah.
And winter in Madrid is especially nice because we have a dry weather. So the sky generally is crystal clear blue. It's beautiful. And even if it's cold, the sunny is always kind of warm. So you can always find a good spot for enjoying.
Yeah, perfect. All clear. Oh, what did you say for planning or implementing?
Because it's linked to what we were mentioning before. I really love working for a public company which works with the local environment and the local context. And it's always very nice to see that the projects get implemented and you see the results.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Good choices, good answers. Thanks for playing along. Now I have one last question for you. And it's the question we ask every single guest. It's really interesting to see the different perspectives from the different sectors and angles and all of that. So to you, what is a smart city?
Okay. I would say that a smart city is a city that uses technology to improve the quality of life of the citizens and to improve the way it's managed. Basically, that would be always ensuring accessibility and sustainable development. Yeah.
Very, very well put. I think that's a pretty textbook answer. Do you think Madrid is a smart city?
I think it's doing a big effort to become a very smart city.
There's not a black and white there, right?
No, it's you have a whole range of gray colors in between. Yeah. So I think it depends very much. And perhaps a city is working on a very specific topic, and other city might not have that necessity and has another approach, because cities are very diverse.
Yeah.
And the local context matters a lot.
Yeah, local context matters. Yes. With that, I will leave you to it, to keep on enjoying this event and keep mingling and exploring and learning. So for that, I just have to thank you so much for your time and for your honest answers. And it was a great conversation. I really had enjoyed it. So thank you so much.
Thanks to you.
And to all of our listeners, don't forget you can always create a free account on babel-smartcities.eu to find out more about smart city projects, solutions, implementations, all these cool things happening. And with that, thank you so much. Thank you all for listening. I'll see you at the next stop on the journey to a better urban life.